Welcome to Live Your Love, the Alicia Doss Show. I am so thrilled to have you, beloved listeners and viewers, and a really heartfelt welcome to Asha Frost. Asha, so happy to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Just delighted to have you. So, beloved listeners, I will tell you a little bit about Asha, and then we will have a gorgeous, heartfelt conversation. So, Asha Frost is an amazing Indigenous healer, best-selling author, speaker, and guide. Drawing on her ancestral knowledge and innate gifts, Asha has become a prominent figure in the field of Indigenous healing, garnering international recognition. As an author, Asha has eloquently captured the essence of Indigenous wisdom in her written words. Her book, You Are the Medicine, and deck, The Sacred Medicine Oracle, a new one, Animal Elders, are powerful testaments to the healing potential that lies within us all. With her insightful storytelling and compassionate voice, Asha has succeeded in bridging the gap between traditional Indigenous wisdom and the modern world, offering guidance and inspiration to a diverse audience seeking personal empowerment. Her work serves as a guiding light, reminding us all of the power of the medicine that lies within. So I met Asha first at a Hay House event. We're both Hay House authors, and you were so welcoming to me. You know, I'm the new kid on the block, and you were just so and are so beautifully warm and inclusive. And I saw your talk, and it's so powerful. I love how you're blending our native Indigenous gifts and lore with all the beauty of our modern world.
Thank you. It was such a gift to meet you too. I knew that we would meet again. So this is such a beautiful time to do that.
Absolutely. So would you pull a card for our show from your new deck?
Oh, I'd love to. So these are the animal elders. They are the spirit animals that are coming through wisdom keeping, and they have that elder medicine. So they have a lot to share. So I'll allow everyone to take a breath together, perhaps, and take a moment about a question in your heart. Maybe you have a question or something that you're wondering about. I'm actually going to pull three for us just to see the whole
Great.
vibe of the energy here. So we got Elder Hawk. And Elder Hawk's about presence. So Elder Hawk is asking us to be the visionary and also bring the visionary down to this earth to see the blessings all around you, to keep the vision and bring presence to your relationships and to everything going on, maybe in this season that you're in right now. Hawk really asks you to be on the lookout for new things to come your way, new opportunities, and to meet them with your whole heart. So we have that. We have Elder Deer. And Elder Deer says,
Hmm.
soften into love. So, deer medicine comes up when we have that really intense inner critic. So, when there's an intense voice inside that's maybe criticizing ourselves, we all have one. And Deer comes forward and says, how can you be more compassionate with yourself? How can you soften that critical voice? How can you come back to that beautiful self love that we all so deserve? So, we have Deer there.
Hmm.
And then the last card we got here is we got the frog. So we got Elder Frog, and it says break generational cycles. So this is an honoring of the generational work that you're doing. And I know that probably a lot of your listeners are really conscious about their inner work. And so it's saying, good job, Spirit saying, good job. You are actually breaking this for generations back, for your ancestors. You're healing something for generations back, and you're dreaming a new vision for the generations to come. So it's honoring you as a cycle breaker. So we're doing that with deep love and deep presence and celebration. So there you go.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So we have a show of generational healing, deep love, presence, and celebration. I love that. And we are going to call on the light, which is an invocation I do at the beginning of the shows. So let's just join together, join our hearts, calling forward our ancient ancestral light. So, beloved listeners and viewers, if you're not driving, just close your eyes and open your heart and just connect to our beautiful Mother Gaia, our ancient earth, the womb that holds us all, the Divine Mother. And now be aware as you deeply breathe in the love of the universe. Just exhale and melt into the hold of the Divine Mother, into her embrace, just giving up any worries or concerns. And we just ask that any negativity or karma just be taken and transmuted. Deep breath in, breathe in the love of spirit, exhale and just let go, perhaps with a bit of shaking of your hands, just flinging out anything you no longer need. Another deep breath in, breathing in the light of the Holy Spirit through your crown chakra, being aware of that light filling all your chakras, body, and consciousness. And join now heart to heart with each one present, each one to listen to the archives, knowing that truly we are one. And just now absolutely surrendering, trusting that numinous heavenly spirit is just on the other side of our awareness, just beyond the veil. And now that veil is pulled aside, that we might experience and express that highest light, that highest love, connecting now to our ancestors, bringing forward all the wisdom of the ages, connecting now into our true potentiality, which is that of awakening to the beautiful spirit of oneness and love that we are. Placing, of course, this show into the light, Asha, myself, all of us present, all into the light of spirit for the highest good, and so be it. May it be so, and amen.
Thank you.
Oh,
So beautiful.
oh, my pleasure. Okay, so in this light, talk to us a little bit about your deck and how it's channeled, my word, from the ancient indigenous wisdom and how that's rare in today's world. How did you marry our present moment with your ancient indigenous heritage?
Yeah, so it's called the Animal Elders Oracle. And on the front, I want to speak about the cover a little bit because it's the blue heron is at the front. And the blue heron, when it comes to visit me, reminds me of my grandfather. My grandfather is now in the spirit world. And he is one of my elders now in the spirit world. But sadly, a lot of our teachings and ceremonies and traditions have been taken and stripped from us and lost due to residential school trauma and colonization. So it's been a journey for me to reclaim and remember those. And many of those teachings have existed in my blood, in my sacred waters, my dream time, the ways that, those things can't be taken from us because it lives in our bones. So my journey's been about reclamation and bringing those things back in different ways. Perhaps that's journeying or dreaming or sitting with the land, the ways that we used to do it, right? We used to connect. So that is really how everything sort of opened up for me and how those teachings came back. I've had guides and teachers and elders along the way, but a lot of that has been fractured. So because of that, that's why I wanted to create a deck that was accessible for all people to connect who didn't have living elders anymore, who didn't have connection to elders. And let's be honest, our society doesn't really treat elders as reverent and respectful the way Indigenous communities have for so long. So I wanted to bring back the medicine of eldership through the accessible animal beings. And spirit animals are such an important part of our culture and our connection. Our channel, our secret channel, has a lot of animal spirits as kin around us. So that's really how it got birthed into being. And it's been a long time waiting. I've had this vision for about 25 years now, and now it's here.
Ah, I love it. So beautiful. And so, speaking of manifesting vision, you've
Mhm.
been incredibly successful in bringing this to a global audience.
Mhm.
So, I have a lot of authors
Mhm.
who are in our audience. Would you talk to us a little bit about your writing process? How do you receive that ancient wisdom and bring it through in in your book, and I know you're writing a new book now.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, soon. Yes. Yes. It's at the proposal
Wonderful.
stage right now. But I think, first of all, I think that if you feel guided to write a book, you need to do it. It's one of those things. If spirit is guiding you, if your higher self is guiding you, those words want to be out and they want to weave through humanity in a great way. So please put your medicine out into the world. The way that for my book, I'd say it was a little bit more challenging. My first book was written during the pandemic, where we were locked down for a very long time here in Ontario, and my children were really close to me. So I had it was sort of like pushing, growing that diamond, all that pressure. I felt like this diamond was birthed out of those pressured times. So I had to be very specific about when I was writing. And at that time, I was challenged even to channel in a bit of a pressured space. So I didn't have the privilege of having, like, being at a cottage or writing even at a coffee shop. My children were playing Play-Doh and Lego at my feet, and I had to light my candle. So I lit my candle with the intention, okay, that's going to be my opening. And it was a small little opening of my like energy field. That was the channel, but it came through anyway. So I want to share that because it doesn't have to be perfect. I think sometimes we think, oh, we need this like perfect writing experience before the words would come through. But the beautiful words will come through no matter what. If your intention's there and you take those inspired actions. And with my deck, the beings came in so strongly. So each card was like a ancestor or a medicine person. They came in so strongly and they held the energy. So they were a little bit, I'd say, easier to channel because it's a shorter form of expression. So they were more fun.
Mhm. Completely. That makes a lot of sense. And my book, Your Angelic Ancestry, uh, it was similar, where the angels would come through and just speak it into being, and it was such a gorgeous, but yes, as you said, challenging journey. I think when we're birthing, there is a labor process of birthing these into the world, and then of course, I always say second children are born of amnesia, right?
Yes, yes, that's so true.
Yes, and yet that labor actually makes us multifaceted and
Mhm.
makes the I think the end product all the more beautiful. And the end
Yeah.
product always being us and our readers receiving of that.
Yeah.
So you when I asked you what would you like to speak about, you gave a very generous offer, which you said you'd like to demystify this whole area of marketing and getting your book child into the world, because I know for me, about to do that because my book launches in July, it's daunting. Talk to us about that. How do you find the joy in that? How did your elders help?
Well, first, I want to celebrate your book because I think that it is like a birthing process and it's a really long process. Like from when you get the book deal to writing it to then launching it in the world, it's a whole bunch of different ways of being in the world. So the first thing I want to say is I was not born a marketer necessarily. I've learned how to market, but that's not where the core of my medicine lies. I love being a creator. I love a healer. Healer is like the core of who I am. So I've had to learn how to market. And so when I've done a book launch into the world, it's taught me every time to stretch a little bit more about how visible you need to be because you think you're maybe being a little bit annoying, like, hi, my book's here, hi, my deck's here, but people don't always see it. So you can share that 10, 20 times and somebody will be like, I didn't know you had a book. And you thought, oh my goodness, I've been sharing this forever, right? Even now, my book is almost, goodness, it'll be 3 years that it's been out, early next year. And people are still finding it and finding out, oh, I didn't even know you wrote one after being in my community for 20 years. So I think
Wow.
that, yeah, so I think that you need to learn to just keep talking about it, right? And you can
Right,
keep talking
right.
about it after the fact. Like, my deck just came out and then my book got seen by a bunch of new people, which is so exciting. So building on your initial creations helps your other ones. And I would say my biggest lesson from the first launch that I did when my book came out was that I burnt out so hard because I went all in. I think I did 100 podcasts in that really short time period. And it was just too many. So I learned to be very discerning that
Mm,
I can't show up that much when I've already shown up so much to birth this into the world. Now I have to care for my energy and do what I can. but also I don't want to burn myself out so that I can't create anymore because then I'm not good to anybody. So that was a really challenging thing that I had to learn, I think, because there's a part of me that wants to do well and I want to,
Yes.
I want to sell the books and I want to be seen. And there's a part of me that thinks, well, if I don't say yes to this opportunity, it's going to go away or I'm not going to do the
Okay.
thing. So I've had to learn very intensely sometimes. If I don't rest, then I won't be able to do them anyways. So, when you're selling your creation, your medicine, your capacity matters too. Your energy and health matters too. So that's been my biggest learning throughout all the launches.
Beautiful. And how did you find that balance? You mentioned, I believe in your, yes, it was in You Are the Medicine that, and I'm not sure which chapter it is. I think perhaps one or two, talking about comparing yourself to other, you didn't use the word marketers, but other influencers where they have more of a more, I don't know how to call it other than like aggressive, more in the world kind of energy. And you went inside, and when you were working with your counselor, when they said, who do you want to be? And you said a peaceful warrior.
Mhm.
How did you find your rhythm amidst, because there's a lot of pressure to be, bold print, all caps, you know, to really be in that more of that flashy kind of marketing. How did you
Mhm.
find your rhythm?
So that in particular was around conversations around, what was up at the time, which was like a lot of around like Black Lives Matter and all of these decolonial conversations. And at the time, there was so much out there. And I know I have a vision for a healed world, and my vision involves kindness. It sounds sometimes people think it's just too simple, but I want to
Mhm.
still show up kind. But I saw myself, I would compare myself to people who were really the loudest. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need those people. They're amazing, But I would think I'm not doing my job well enough because I wasn't shouting or I wasn't yelling or I wasn't doing it the way they were doing it. I wanted to still come back to that peaceful warrior type and that kindness, that person who I've always been. But it took me a long time to wrestle with that because I thought maybe I'm doing something wrong and I would shame myself for that. So that was a really big thing. And I think as an Indigenous person as well, because I really stand for us all to be free, that's all beings and all people. And I think that I can do it in my own way. And the Indigenous way for me is to do it in a kind way, but Indigenous way for somebody else is doing it in a different way. So I had to just
Mhm.
really separate myself from comparing myself and see that my path was given to me for a reason and I had to walk it.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And you have this gorgeous quote, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished, by Lao Tzu.
Mm-hmm.
And yet our, it's our society is, especially for women, it's rushing. It's get it done. It's due in each moment. And yet my impression of the Indigenous culture is much more in harmony with our earth and the heartbeat of the universe. How can you counsel us through your elders about being more in our own flow and being in flow with our natural world, even while we're in the modern world?
Yes, I think that's the biggest challenge. And I think, first of all, as women, we have this natural essence, anyways. Our bodies move through rhythms and cycles. Our bodies are connected, attuned to the moon. So when we think about
Yes.
it, those are part of our original teachings that we carry the first waters. If we have children, the first
Mhm.
waters, we come from those womb waters. They are cycling with us our whole lives, and that moon is pulling on. If we were, ocean water, we're pulling on those tides of us every single month. So we already have that inside of us, right? That's a part of us, a divine part of us. But we forget because the systems tell us, no, no, you need to be on 24/7. You need to hustle and be in the grind culture. You will never get where you need to be. Your value is only based on your productivity, right? It's like only if you produce, then you're valuable, then you're seen. And it can be so hard, I think, especially as creators or influencers who have to be on social media because that's a 24/7 job. It'll never be enough. So the medicine wheel teaches us that each season and cycle is of equal importance. So here where I live north of Toronto, we have very diverse seasons. We have really extreme seasons. So we have a really cold, cold winter. We have a really hot, hot summer. And then we have the in between. And what I've noticed when I've worked with folks over the last 20 years is we don't love being in the fall. Like not necessarily temperature wise, but we don't like being in a fall state because things are feeling disorienting. Things are starting to die. Things are need to shift and we don't know what. And we're holding on for dear life. And we're thinking, I feel lost. I feel confused. I don't know where I'm going. So that's the season I see a lot of people in that they don't love being in. But the medicine wheel says, oh, but this is a sacred part of your divinity. You must go through this season and cycle before you get to the winter and the spring and the summer. You must fall through that, right? You must move through that. And then the winter says, oh, beautiful soul, you must rest. You have to rest an equal amount of time as the other medicine wheel parts because rest builds capacity. But our culture will tell us, no, you cannot rest, right? You must hustle, hustle, hustle. So I think the medicine wheel teaches us that we need these parts to be whole. We need these seasons. And if you're in a fall or winter season now, you need to know you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. And the medicine wheel always turns. Mother Earth never skips past a season. She always goes through it at her own pace and time. And there's always a spring and there's always a summer. So that's something we can learn from that.
That's so beautiful. And speaking of women and waters, you talk about when the menses ends, then our energy goes into being the wise woman, into being elder is seems sort of pejorative in today's world, but really being that in Celtic culture, it's called the crone. And
Mm-hmm.
yet our society is rather youth obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
How do we, in the Indigenous culture, is the wise woman more respected? Is aging more a graceful process? And how do you find that joy in maturation amidst our current culture?
Yeah, I think I would say it used to be. I think we've probably all been colonized into that way of thinking and being. So we're returning to that, but we still hold our elders as in that reverence and in that respect. So elder women, like grandmothers, we would call them nokomis. They are the wisdom sharers and keepers, and they pass down so much to us, and we hold them with that kind of respect. But I'd say we probably all have to unwind from this beauty standards and the culture that's happening right now that's telling us there's no value in eldership. And yes, you're right. Once your sacred waters stop running, there's a wealth of wisdom that now gets to be shared with those younger generations or with humanity in a way that it never was before. So it's such a sacred time and it's such an enlightening time, but we've really lost it. I think a lot of people are bringing it back now, which is so great to see, but we still have a lot of work to do. So yeah, I'd say that on a whole, we hold our elder women as grandmothers, as we respect them and we honor them in those ways. And I think that I hope that those teachings continue, right? And kind of spread out to everyone to see. That's what I hope my deck does, right? The elders are important and we need to honor them as such.
And our the elders with the elder within ourselves, no
Yes,
matter our age, but especially as we ripen,
yes,
really loving and luxuriating in the beauty and the grace and the wisdom and the evolvement and the attunement to spirit that can come
yes,
as we walk more days on the earth and have so much more, especially if we're on a spiritual path, have so much more of an ability to be that conduit. I think
yes.
as we go, I'm not just a mother. I'm not just a this. I'm not just that. I'm not even a woman. Just a woman. I am the spirit, and I think we only come to that after we have lived a while and have so much more to share.
I agree. And I know that people say, when you turn 40, there's this evolution that you have. And then when you turn 50, I'm not quite 50, but then people say there's this new, you'll hear people say, I love being 50 and I love feeling so confident in myself. And I can say that I'm starting to see that. Like those wounds or those traumas, I think that we work on healing and healing and healing. All of a sudden, there's like something comes together, something
Mhm.
just, it's so beautiful. It just like evolves and alchemizes. And then it's like, oh, I don't worry about that anymore, or I don't try to please those people anymore, or I don't care about that anymore. And it sort of happens like magic. It feels like, oh, wow, yeah, I've grown, I've healed. So I can't wait for 50.
I love that. Well, especially if we embrace that and we resist or transcend the impetus and the impulse to try to be, looking younger than we are, or try to be acting younger, or looking with a wistful eye at, those who are younger. It's really like, this is such a beautiful place to rest in. Not that we don't do anything, but there is a deeper sense of knowing who we are and knowing
Yeah.
who we all are.
Yes,
Right?
I love that so
And
much.
know,
And I read something last week, I think, about when we're so worried, I think right now it's like wrinkles and looking older and aging, whatever that is. But that like those features were in like your grandmothers, your great grandmothers, your great great grandmothers, right? Like that's so beautiful. And if we're trying to erase those aspects of ourselves, think about all the wisdom held and all of those smile lines and forehead wrinkles because we're resilient and all of these things that we've gone through. Not that there's anything wrong with wanting to do those things, but I think yeah, our ancestors are living in our faces, and how beautiful is that the wisdom can shine through in that way.
beautiful. Our ancestors are living in our faces. Yes, gorgeous. Uh, Shifting gears a little bit,
Hmm.
I am half English and half Indian. So platinum blonde mother and East Indian father. And I was fascinated to see, so you're Indigenous and you married a Jewish man, right?
I did, yeah.
How do you blend culture, and what is your hope for your children?
I love that question. My first of all, I think that we were drawn together. There's sort of some karma or something generationally because I think there's a similar thread of trauma in our lineage. My husband's grandfather was in the Holocaust, and then my grandparents were in
Hmm.
residential school. So there's that oppressive energy that flows through in different ways, and there's this gorgeous way of celebrating. There's this ancestral resilience and ancestral healing and beauty that is in both cultures. And when I first met his family, they were so family oriented. It was like everybody's welcome and let's do these gorgeous dinners together. And I really found a lot of delight in that. And I could feel their ancestors every time we gathered. So I felt like there was a connection there, which was so beautiful. So I want my children to feel that connection to all their ancestors, the ancestral resilience that they carry from all their ancestors have gone through. I want them to feel pride because I think our generation is still working through some of that trauma, and their generation has an opportunity to live in the joy and live in the ease more than ours did. So that's what I that's what I dream for them, is that they can tune into their resilience of their ancestors, the joy that they dreamed for them, their dreams that they dreamed for them, and all of that. That's what I really wish and hope for them. And I can say that they're 7 and 12 right now, and they're so proud of being Indigenous, and they're so proud of being Jewish. So I don't feel
Yeah.
that thread of any of that shame that I held for so long.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And it's so fascinating because we have these streams of consciousness of standing on the shoulders of our ancestors and our elders, and then we have this wild stream of AI and technology, and how the future seems to be coming at lightning speed. So how is it, I'm asking this, I've kind of asked you this, but this, how do you marry that lightning of our ancestry with that lightning speed of technology and AI, and um, finding self in the midst of not denying our future, but keeping strong to ancient self as well as future self?
Ooh, I think that's a big question and something maybe I'm wrestling with right now because in my 20 years of being in business, things have changed so much. There wasn't even social media when I first started. It was all person to person networking. And I really loved that way of growing my business. And learning to be on social media was a big challenge and a stretch for me. Now it's about learning AI. And to me, it feels very different vibrationally. And that might change, but if I tune into the energy and vibration of AI, I can feel the thread of difference between that and when I tune into my ancestral guidance. And there's nothing wrong with either of them, I think, or right with either of them. I think it's just knowing the difference. Like if I want to tune into that frequency, that's going to be over here. And if I want this frequency, that's going to be over there. I don't know if I've quite found a way to meld the two together yet when we're talking about the speed of AI and what's coming in that way. We'll have to see. I think I have to live it out to see how that's going to work. But what I know to stay true to, what I know that always brings me home is the voice of my ancestors. That hasn't gone anywhere. That's not going to go anywhere. So I think there's solace or safety in knowing that we all can have that, no matter what whips up in technology, which of course will advance us too. So yeah, I just know I'm very certain and solid in my connection to my ancestors.
Beautiful. And so going back to this sharing yourself on, and your social media is beautiful, by the
Oh,
way.
thank
If you
you.
do look up Asha on Instagram, it's your name, right?
Yeah,
Asha
it
Frost.
is. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So how do you, it's a funny question, but how do you get yourself to do it? How do you, and I assume you send out emails and you
Mhm.
you market your products and services. How do you get yourself up to be excited about that and enthusiastic about that?
Yeah, I'll be honest, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm not. I don't write. I cannot override my body. That's something I'm certain about as well, is if I don't have inspiration to write something, I can't override that. It has to be aligned, which is why sometimes I won't be on there for a week. Because I really am in a bit of that winter stage, and I've done like a really big launch, or I've been out, or I've been speaking everywhere, and I don't have anything left truly to share on social
Mhm.
media.
Mhm.
So I'll take a break and I have to gain capacity again. But when I have something, then I have something, and then it just feels it drops in and it's ready to share. So that's when I get excited, is when I feel alignment and when I feel like purposeful about it, because I want it to feel for me, and that's not true for everyone. I want it to feel really like, okay, this is it, and this is how I want to share. And then, yeah, like I think, doing those businessy things that we have to do, it just becomes part of your everyday way. And I think the big vision for me is community building. Like for me, the best, if you want to talk about ROI, return of investment, is building relationships, building communities where people have gotten to know and treat each other as kin and honor and respect each other. Like all of these sacred ways of being and knowing in sacred circle. That is my big vision. I want that to grow and grow and grow in beautiful ways. And I want people to remember their own medicine, remember their power. Like I just keep my big vision in mind, and then the little things that kind of come at me or try to knock me down, they can release, once you have your big vision held.
Yes, beautiful. For me, it's I have a very similar process with it of really needing to, and rather than marketing and selling, I think of it as serving and
Mm,
connecting,
mm,
bringing us all more into and following our calling.
mhm.
There comes a time where we have to follow our calling. It becomes much more painful to not do that than to just share what spirit has uniquely given us to share, which is, multifacets of the diamond of God, spirit, whatever name we call it. It's love.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I think I work with a lot of people in my communities who are highly sensitive, sometimes shy. They're just like, I can never be visible. I can't do that. And I have to remind them, if you ever saw me as a child, I was so shy, and I'm so sensitive still, deeply feeling person. So I think
Mhm.
that there are ways that you can still show up there and be visible. No matter if you're an introvert or you're a sensitive person, I still think that there are ways you can do it when you are connected, as you said, to spirit. Then it guides you and pushes you forward.
Really, exactly. And it's love pulling us forward rather than lack pushing us. It's not
Yes,
a wanting to be seen. I think that if someone is coming from that place, we can feel it. But if it's a wanting to serve and love, we can feel that too.
always.
And then I love actually when you talk about being shy, and I was similar as a child, and I think that gives other people permission
Mm,
to then share and not feel like, okay, I've got to be this, you know, rah person. and
yeah.
and it's so beautiful. We have such a big world that is served in so many different ways.
Yeah, we need all of us. And I speak about that in my book, and I even to a certain extent in the animal elders that, we have a clan system in Indigenous ways. I'm
Mhm.
part of the Crane clan. And if imagine the world was set up that way, right? Everybody had a responsibility. So the Crane were the speakers, and they were the ones who gathered different communities together. The Bears were the healers. Like we had all of these different clans who had responsibility. And if we saw the world like that, then we wouldn't compare ourselves because we'd know, well, she's over there doing that, her clan thing over there, and she's really good at it. And I'm over here taking responsibility for mine, right? And then we could uplift and see one another and celebrate the differences in all of us and how we're all trying to, come together for a common ground.
Yes, absolutely. And you talk about that in You Are the Medicine. I
Mhm.
believe it's chapter 2. You'll have to help me out here, where you talk about how you work with jealousy and comparison and that and you share about it in a really gorgeous way. Would you talk about it now for us?
Yeah, at that time, I remember I was starting my homeopathic practice, or I was in homeopathy school, and one of my friends, she had this gorgeous studio. She had all these remedies and books and crystals, and it was just a dream that I had at the time to have like a beautiful library like that and all of these remedies. And I had that little feeling of jealousy or maybe envy, or just like I want that too. I want that too. So I think it's really important for us to acknowledge it and express it instead of shaming ourselves and keeping it hidden. I think it's so important to share. I'm feeling kind of jealous about that, or I'm feeling a bit triggered, knowing that we have the capability to do something with it. It's not like we're projecting or throwing something at that person. We're taking responsibility and we're saying, "Oh, I'm feeling this thing," and they really are inspiring me into a way that one day that I can create that myself. I think any jealousy is a mirror to us to say, this is available to you too. This is in your line of vision. This is in your destiny line. This is in your beautiful web. Because otherwise it wouldn't even like come your way, right? So I think that
Yeah,
it expands your
yeah.
capacity to say, well, now I'm going to dream that into being because that's a part of that is what I want to emulate. And it's already in me somewhere.
Gorgeous, exactly. And I wish I could remember who said it, but somebody had a great line, which they said there's 8 billion people on this planet. Most of them are screwed up. Go serve.
Oh, I love
you know?
that.
I mean, and certainly we can both put both hands in the air on these crews screwed up in some way, meaning we all need each other. There's always someone who needs our help, and there's an abundance in the universe. Nature keeps replenishing itself, keeps reorganizing, and we're part of that.
Yes, we are nature. I love that.
Yeah. And maybe that could be one of your books. We are nature.
We are nature.
Yes, it's really true. And you share so beautifully and candidly in You Are the Medicine about having a chronic illness,
Mhm.
lupus, and how you manage that. I think people think, oh, I have to be healthy, I have to be rich, I have to be stable, and then I'll write my book. Then I'll go and share. And goodness gracious, we'd be waiting a long time until we were perfect. So share with us a little bit about how that informs your work, how you manage that, how you self-care with that, and still be the dynamic teacher you are.
Yeah. I'd say the things I've talked about around boundaries and really listening to my body has been the biggest teacher for me. I'm not always great at it. Sometimes I override that and bypass those signs in my body, and that's where the lupus will flare up, or my body will say, "Nope, you have to stop." But it's
Mhm.
been part of my path. It is the one that has led me to be a medicine woman. It is the one that has led me to this path as an author and a speaker because all the challenges I've been through, I've gained so much wisdom that I can share now with the world, with the
Mhm.
people. It really does. And like you're right. If I waited till I was cured, I don't know if that will ever happen, then I would be waiting a long time. But I know I've healed. I know I've healed time and time again, and that healed part of me deserves to be shared, and it's going to help other people because they can relate to it. So that's something that I know to be true about any challenge that you go through. You will sit with somebody, and if you're doing some sort of conscious work around it, you'll have this magnetic presence that flows from you naturally that will just link with that other person. It'll be harmonic. And then that'll be the dance. You'll be able to help them. You'll be able to serve for, for them, or help them in a way that they need help because you've been through it yourself. And I think that's so vital to our journey.
Oh, so beautiful. And you share something that I didn't know, and I think a lot of people didn't know, which is, for example, that like sage is being overutilized, and that's really indigenous lore, indigenous medicine. How can we as non-indigenous people utilize indigenous wisdom and practices while still respecting and not misappropriating them?
It's a huge question. There's certain ways that I share this in my book. There's certain ways that how you can appreciate, not appropriate. So
Mhm.
appropriation is an issue because you're taking from a group that has been historically marginalized. And because, as I shared in our really recent history, my grandparents weren't allowed to speak their language. They were beaten for it in residential school. So the language was lost and broken, right? They weren't allowed to
Ah,
practice their
oh,
ceremonies. So ceremonies had to go underground. So something like smudging with sage would have been illegal for Indigenous people whose medicine it is to practice. So when you see somebody who's not
ah.
Indigenous that's taking the sage and waving it around and not knowing the history or respecting it, that is really harmful to an Indigenous person whose recent history where it was illegal to practice those ceremonies. And it's a ceremony, so it's respect, right? And reverence that we have to play to it. So know the history of the land, the territories you're on, know the people. It's really easy to look up. Know that relationship to the land of those people that stewarded those land originally. Know the history of your country and really how we are still operating in very colonial, racist ways.
Mm, mm,
Know these stories, right? About why taking sage and using it for your marketing or using it in a way that's not respectful is harmful. There's a bunch of things. Give back to Indigenous communities in any way that you can. That's really important, especially if you're using these medicines. And then support Indigenous creators, which you're doing here by sharing my voice. But it really helps. Like sometimes I feel like, am I ever going to get anywhere? And I felt my whole life, will I ever be on those stages? Because nobody looks like me. I honored those teachers so deeply. I learned from them. And a lot of those teachings were taken from Indigenous culture. So I had to just keep hoping and praying that one day there'd be a space for me. So when you uplift my work or support my work, it makes room for other Indigenous youth who don't have any hope in their communities and they don't think they're ever going to get anywhere. But I'm kind of one of those people that are kind of breaking down those doors and hopefully leaving a
mhm.
huge, huge pathway and stage for those people to come in.
Let's lift that into the light. Absolutely. It then becomes easy because of pioneers like you. Sorry for using that word, but because of people like you who've broken through those barriers when it was hard, when you wanted to stop, when it felt hopeless, and yet you kept walking because the love pulled you forward. So that would be my prayer, is that path then becomes so much easier for
Mm.
Indigenous youth and Indigenous elders.
I
What
love
is the hope, love? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I love that so much. I was thinking about how this year I've traveled to many communities that I don't often get to relate to. I'm north of Toronto, so I'm not close to a ton of Indigenous communities where I am location wise. And a lot of
Mhm.
the children, it was a lot of youth workers, teachers working with the children that are really struggling and struggling with
Mhm.
things like this is real, right? Struggling with things of like suicide in youth is an
Mhm.
enormous problem, an issue in Indigenous communities. Not lack of clean water is a huge issue, and people are shocked when I talk about these things. But I am with these people. It's not something that just exists out there. I see the impact of
Yeah.
that on these communities, and it's heartbreaking. So my hope is that people listen and they don't just turn their head away or think, well, I'm just gonna, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter because it's happening in our country. And even when I tell people, they're shocked and they think, oh, but we don't live in a world country. And I think, well, for many Indigenous communities, that is the reality. And even the reserve my grandmother lives on, they have to go on boil advisory quite a bit because the water is not clean to drink, but the water 20 minutes down the road is in the local town or city. So it's an issue. It's still an issue. And we need to care about it, especially if you're using sage. You need to care.
Exactly, exactly. And so we need to talk offline about clean water because I have a resource. And anybody who's listening to this who knows of an Indigenous community in either the US or Canada, in the Americas, please reach out to me, because I have a source that I met completely serendipitously or perfectly, that can bring clean water in a very big way to the Americas. So we'll talk offline about that. We did talk a little bit about that. But yes, there is a need for clean water in our country, on our continent, that people have no idea. I love that so much aid is being sent out, to other continents, but it's right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's right here that we need the help too.
Yes.
So what is the hopefulness?
Oh, there's so much hope. I think my name means hope. So that's, I think, part
Your
of my
name means
medicine.
hope?
It means hope. Yes, it means hope. So I think planting my seeds of inspiration and the medicine in the world plants that hope. And I have a vision for healing and I don't, sometimes it's like, because I don't live in community, I also don't want to sound like I have the vision for these to heal. But I think that we all heal as a whole together, because we can't do this healing without non-Indigenous people also coming together. So I have a hope that communities come together to see one another, to hear one another, to acknowledge the history of what has happened that still continues to affect us to this day. So I have a hope for that. And then I think if that acknowledgement happens, then it's going to just start to weave in some hopefulness, I think, and vision for a better future for our families, for our next 7 generations to come. I would love to see Indigenous people in government. That would be a huge hope and dream, like in a really beautiful way, that are making decisions for the earth. I have a hope that people start caring about the earth and seeing what we're doing to Mother Earth, and being more intentional and being more reciprocal. We live as Indigenous people in reciprocity. It's never about what extraction or what can I take. It's like, what can I give? How can I give back to Mother Earth for all she gives me? Because she gives me way more than I give back to her. So how do we act in reciprocal ways? That's my hope, that people ask that question every day.
So beautiful. So it's already time to move into meditation, and then we'll share a little bit about some beautiful ways to connect with you. And then we will say goodbye for now. How do you say goodbye in your language?
There's actually no word for goodbye. We say bama pi,
Ah,
which means I'll see you again. So it's always I'll see you
oh,
again, never goodbye.
I love that. That's gorgeous. Okay, so let's move into a meditation, which we're going to do together. So again, beloveds, if you would close your eyes, unless you're driving, in which case you're still very much with us, and just open your heart and be aware of connecting into the heartbeat of Mother Earth, hearing those ancient drums, that percussion of your true nature, of each of us, the unique heartbeat of each of us joined together in concert with the heartbeat of God, of Spirit, the earth. As we open and just ask that any of those ancient wounds of our ancestors, of ourselves, that might be still informing our present, that they be taken by grace, we might be lifted into the light, that we connect in with the ancient elder animal spirits, receiving the gifts of those beautiful ones that have gone before, of those soaring ancestral lines, that we know we are part of each of these, that we are connected completely to Source. And as we hear those ancient drums, as we sup those ancient waters, that we relax and we release into the pure and true love that is nature coursing through our veins, that Mother Earth would surround us, that we might lay our head upon her chest and give her all our sorrows, any dis-ease, anything that holds us back from knowing we are made of sunshine, We are rooted and winged both, and we soar, even as we rise ever and ever higher into the light of our souls and of spirit. Now we journey further as Asha brings us home.
Connecting into that gorgeous divine spirit that you are. And as you're soaring into that light, you notice that you're actually in the star nations. The star nations where the ancestors live. The star nations where they dreamed you into being. And as you soar here, you notice that you are wearing wings. You notice the color, the vibration, and the energy. You feel the expansiveness of your heart as you weave through these star nations, and as the energy of the ancestors gathers around you. You feel that beat of Mother Earth's heart within your waters, within your own heart. You feel that energy of your intention for your medicine walk upon the planet. The stars shine brighter than ever before, and you are guided. You're guided to soar to one of them today, with this ancestral connection all around you. A loved one who has passed gathers before you. They come lovingly. They come with care and wisdom. They place their hand in yours, and you feel the source of unconditional love flowing through your body and being. You feel safe and warm. And they say, come now. Come along the starlit path. Come. We are going to the elders, and they lead you down this path, and you feel your glorious wings as both of you soar, moving through the stars, moving towards the energy of the animal elders. And today, as you softly slow down, we ask them, beautiful animal spirit realm, what animal being wishes to come forward for me? What animal spirit do I need now upon my path? And you listen. You see, sense, or feel. What animal being do I need right now on my path? Trust yourself. You ask this animal, what is it that I've forgotten about myself that you are here to remind me of? What is it that I've forgotten about myself that you are here to remind me of? And you listen. They weave in this glorious light energy. They whip it up all around you like a vortex of stars. You feel this animal medicine sourcing through you, moving around you. You become the medicine of this animal. It helps to retrieve those pieces and parts of yourself that you have forgotten. And it lands inside of you in some way. You feel every part of you glowing, sparkling, shining out in the star nations as this animal. Hold yourself tall. Expand yourself. Be present with all that you are. This animal leaves one word in your heart that represents your essence, your presence on this planet. And you leap off from the stars, saying goodbye to your loved one. And you soar with your wings, with that animal in your heart, with that word in your soul, all the way back down to Mother Earth, where her heartbeat welcomes you back home, where you feel the heartbeat in your own feet, and you breathe yourself back. But as you do, you breathe back that animal magic through your waters, your blood, your bones, and your cells. It pours out of your skin. You are whole. You are the medicine. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes.
So beautiful. Thank you. That's
Thank you
gorgeous.
so much.
Yeah.
What
So
animal did you
tell
get?
us,
Did you get an animal?
horse.
Oh, I love that so much.
And you?
I got this really beautiful, it was like a white crane. So I have to actually look that up because the white was really powerful for me. So, yeah.
Oh, gorgeous. Gorgeous. So tell us how we can find you.
Yeah, so well, I am at ashafrost.com and on Instagram I'm asha.frost and I would say I'm there the most. If you want to show up on social media, that's where I am. And if you do get my deck, please share with me the cards that you pull or the animal spirit that you got from this journey as well. I'd love to hear.
Absolutely. And big plug for Asha's Instagram. It's absolutely gorgeous. And to me, really radiates the Indigenous wisdom in it. And just as you did now. And
Great.
this is a lovely deck. So very easy to find everywhere. Decks and books are sold. And You Are the Medicine. I love that book.
Oh, thank you so much.
So Asha Frost, and the latest deck is Animal Elders. And my book, Your Angelic Ancestry, Discover Your Archangelic Name, Heritage, and Higher Purpose, is now for sale. So we'll put the link in the show notes. And of course, it's very easy to find on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, wherever you buy books. So of course, pre-sales help a lot. So please do buy it and you'll get lots of bonuses. There'll be special events. And it's really like Ancestry.com meets the angelic realm, where you can really connect to your own angelic self and bring in that divine remembrance, all the magical attributes of angels right present into your life to transform your life. So do please check that out. And thank you so much for joining Asha and I today. We have a few shows coming up that are special. I'd like to invite you to the next show. January 13th is Pat Quinn, a celebrity speaking coach. February 3rd is Neil Donald Walsh, author of Conversations with God. So join us for those special shows. Again, Asha Frost on Instagram, Animal Elders. Thank you so much for joining, Asha.
Oh, it's been such a gift. Thank you for having me.
Been our pleasure. And beautiful listeners and viewers, until next time, live your love. Bye for now.